views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Social Justice Forums. I am Daren, Jaime, and if you're asking the question, what are the Social Justice Forums about? Well, we're a show that takes a look at many of the inequities that people face. We promote civic engagement, we give public awareness, and we have some great and interesting guests. So we invite you to stay with us because the Social Justice Forums begins right now. Welcome back. The Committee for Hispanic Children and Families is a not-for-profit organization combining direct service with policy work, which amplifies minority voices at the local, state, and national levels to advocate for education equity. The organization provides programs reaching underserved low-income families throughout New York City and the home-based child care providers who serve them. We're pleased now to be joined by two very special guests. Joining us now are the Committee for Hispanic Children and Families Chief Program Officer, Ingrid Chungata, and then the Director of Policy, Danielle Demeuse. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us, Daryl.
Thank you. And so I'll start off first with you, Ingrid. So for those that may not be so familiar with the organization, I gave a little bit of an intro, but take us a little bit further in.
So the Committee for Hispanic Children and Families, and we are using the acronym CHCF, was founded in 1982 out of the need to provide quality childcare services to children and families in the city of New York, and to create opportunities for people to come together to advocate for those services. And we've been doing that job ever since, and we have expanded our program and recently partnering with the Department of Education and the network program. So we are providing services in the Bronx with family childcare providers.
And Danielle, for yourself as well, you're working on the policy side. Talk to us a little bit about policy and the work that you do.
Sure. Just to kind of add on to what Ingrid was saying, our history is really rooted in focus on culturally responsive and linguistically responsive services and sustaining those services and for our families and communities. And so as we've evolved in our programming and expanded our services to early childhood, to youth development, and into advocacy, we really have that as a sustained effort that we fight for and really try to push our state and city leaders on and how they communicate and elevate resources to our families and our communities. So in the policy side of it, we additionally expand out our partnerships with many community-based organizations and community partners around not only those pieces, but the services we offer, sustaining investments in after-school programming and access to high-quality, affordable childcare. And we also have a component of intersectionality. You know, we really understand that families have a lot of other pieces that are intersecting with their day-to-day lives that drive towards success for children and learning spaces. So we work around housing access, food access, immigration supports, all of these different pieces that really ensure a thriving family experience so that children can really show up in educational spaces to achieve their dreams and pursue their skills and talents. So.
Mm-hmm. And so tell me a little bit about how you're able to actually reach your clientele. You know, we talk about the clientele that you serve, but how are you able to reach this population?
Sure. So we're on the ground. We're a direct service organization. The strong majority of the work that we do as an organization is outside of the policy realm and the advocacy realm. We actually are about to open up our Bronx-based office on June 2nd, and that'll be a physical space for families to be able to go to get access to childcare, to navigate, subsidy access and find programs that have capacity. And it's also a space for folks to connect with our community empowerment team, which is where you really see supports around those intersectional pieces, housing systems, right? Food access systems. And we also offer through that department, immigration supports, know your rights, citizenship workshops, things of that nature. So it's a physical presence in our communities that people can connect with. And then we also have physical presence in a couple of schools. We work with 3 schools in the Bronx, directly providing after school programming and extended learning time programming. And through that avenue as well, we build very strong relationships with the families served in that space, to again connect them to those intersectional resources and supports that might better help them, feel as powerful and strong as a family unit.
Yeah, Ingrid, from your lens, what are you seeing amongst Hispanic children and families? What are some of the biggest needs that maybe we're not so familiar with?
So one of the biggest needs we have seen right now, it's the need for mental health. And we have really taken this on as an organization to really identify within our providers and within the programs that we support, ways to work with the providers and the families to secure services. So one of the things that we have seen is during the pandemic and after, now that we kind of going back to life as normal, that we have seen the needs for families to really understand what's out there when it comes to mental health services, and also secure services for their children. So we have seen that children are coming into our programs with a very limited vocabulary, exhibiting challenging behaviors because they've been at home for so long. So one of the things that we're currently doing is working with our providers, identifying these needs within their families, and working with the families to secure services either through private identity or through other sources.
Yeah. Danielle, I know that Ingrid talked about really dealing with COVID and really coming out of that, the season of isolation where families really had to deal with a lot. And when we're talking about learning and education, we know that there was that technology gap, not to mention just the whole education gap, having to be able to learn at home. And sometimes for everybody, that's not so easy. So talk to us a little bit about what you like to see in area of policy and also in area of sustainability to help to make your constituents a little bit better.
Sure. And I mean, absolutely. One of the pieces that all of the community-based organizations, certainly CHCF, but those that we partner with and work with in advocacy spaces through the pandemic, just did phenomenal work. On the drop of a hat, we had to switch gears and be able to transition our programming automatically to this remote reality. So our services really stepped up to meet those gaps in access. And to the technology piece, language access continues to be a huge issue. Getting out forms, informing families in their language and their home language of resources that are available, including access to the tablets, the devices, helping families navigate those processes to access those resources was a huge piece of what we were doing in addition to our contracted services around after school and beyond. And to Ingrid's point, the mental health piece, we incorporated a lot of mental health components and ways to just bring families and children together with our staff to do dance classes, cooking classes, and we sent kits out with games and coloring materials and things like that, because it was really about trying to sustain the happiest space we could all be in during that time. And now as we've transitioned back, it's really been a focus about how we are thoughtfully investing as a city the tremendous resources that were given to us through the federal government to be meeting those needs, right? Making sure that our teachers not only are being supported and helped with their own mental health, but so that they can meet our children and our families where they're at, and make sure that they're transitioning and getting back to a space where they can learn and thrive again. So that's been a huge part of our expanded, program modeling to really respond to this moment. Policy-wise, I mean, we're really focused on those dollars. How are we making sure that they're being utilized in the most impactful way to respond to the realities of the moment and help our families and our children get back to that space of healthy, thriving, can learn going forward. So that's really where our focus is at on our advocacy. And one piece in particular, we've had a vested interest in a partnership in past around community schools as a really key model for delivering wraparound services integrated inside of the school space. So another piece that we're really focusing on is how the city will continue to invest in community schools, in those types of models that are proven, demonstrable, right? Evidence that they impact our families and can meet that holistic picture of needs. So that's really where our focus is this year.
I know a lot of work that you do is really about making people aware through advocacy, and I know I would love for you to share a little bit about the advocacy workshops, but you're also building community. You're building the opportunity for people to learn more about it, and then also to have a creative voice in being able to speak on behalf of Hispanic children and families.
Right. So we are in the midst of starting a new program. It's a leadership academy where we want to really mobilize grassroots movement when people identify their needs within the community and have a voice that they could amplify the needs of that community. So we will focus, it will be training platform where community members could join us and through a process learn about housing regulations or the law, immigration services, food acquisition, tenant and landlord rights. So through this platform, we want to be able to give the community their own voice, right? So that they be able to support one another in their needs. So if there's a neighbor who's going through any issues, there's someone in their neighborhood who could step up and say, you know, I'm here and I could support you. So we want to be able to give tools so that our communities could really strive on their own with the support organizations like us that will be behind them, providing them with these tools that they need.
Yeah, with that work, we're really excited to kind of put a system in place to do that. We've been doing that even beyond the launch of this with our direct program services. We've really kind of driven towards how can we bring families and children to spaces where decisions are being made. And so part of it is really just breaking down this very wonky bureaucracy of how the state and the city and the federal government function, and introducing our families and getting them connected with their leaders, the ones who are up there representing their voices in their communities as these really important decisions that affect their lives are being made. So even before, in pre-pandemic life, we used to get on buses and we brought parents and children up to Albany to have really thoughtful conversations about the value of after school, of having high quality, culturally responsive childcare, not only for children, for healthy development, but also so families can work and know that their kids are in safe spaces. So we're really excited to continue that work and kind of resume back to this space where hopefully we can go back and travel and visit with our leaders, because we need to be seen as we're collective partners for our communities and making sure that we're all making decisions that are thoughtful and will have the greatest impact for everybody. So that's really exciting work.
And talk about impact for everybody. I know the Bronx is excited because it looks like, you know, you'll be expanding services right through the Bronx. Please share with us a little bit about the work that'll be happening right here in our borough.
We already have 3 school sites that we are physically present in doing after school services and extended learning time. We're at PS 226, PS 59, and PS MS 226. And actually with PS MS 226, you'll see that we are partnering with the city to continue offering Summer Rising this year. So that's really important work to make sure that we're getting academic supports during the summer, as well as enrichment activities for our kiddos. And then we're opening up our office, which is really going to be the hub for our family child care network. And so that is something that we are in partnership with the DOE on. We support a group of family child care providers, home-based providers delivering licensed high quality care and services, and making sure that families are getting connected to those services. So those 2 pieces are great pieces that families can keep in mind. We support also through our community empowerment team, family access to those services. So calling us up, coming into our office, you'll be connected directly with our wonderful team to navigate any and all services that one might need, as well as resources beyond that in that intersectional capacity. I don't know if Ingrid wants to add anything.
This is an amazing time. This is the first time that we're going to have a physical office where people could really come in and get information, especially our family child care providers who we support to a team of educational specialists, health monitors who go and really support the providers and provide to them the tools they need, right, to be able to educate our little ones. We understand the importance of early childhood education. We understand the city does a great job in maintaining the programs when it comes to health and safety, but one of the pieces that we take that is so valuable is that educational piece, to really incorporate high quality education within these programs. We're also having a fair, a community resource fair this June 11 at PS 59, where we will have different resources available and information for the communities to join us and hear all about the services CHCF has to offer.
Beautiful. And so for people who want more information, how do they just go about doing that?
Well, we have our website, chcfinc.org, and we're also active on social media, so you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, to see some of the fun things that we're up to.
Well, certainly we want to thank you both, Danielle and Ingrid, for being with us here on the show. Continued success with the work that you're doing, and we want to thank you for being with us and continue to be great partners. Thanks much.
Thank you so much for having us.
All righty. And we want to let you know that we've got more on the social justice front. Don't go anywhere. We're going to continue in a few minutes, or I should say a few seconds.
We built a media network for you.
BronxNet TV.
Come learn in your new state-of-the-art studios at Lehman College.
At Mercy College.
And coming soon to the South Bronx in the Hub.
Inspire with your stories, culture, history.
Your Bronx on BronxNet.
Engage with us.
Connect with us at your channels and at BronxNet.tv.
Learn, engage, inspire. BronxNet TV.
From the Bronx
to the world.
BronxNet.
Welcome back. BronxConnect is a faith and also a community-based program which actually offers alternatives to detention, incarceration, and violence prevention work. Now, Release the Grip strives to sustain such a space for Bronx residents and encourages similar community support in an effort to end gun violence. Joining me now, we're pleased to have the director of BronxConnect, Minister Tara Brown-Arnell. And Minister Brown-Arnell, thank you so much for being with us.
Wonderful morning, wonderful morning.
It's a sad time in the borough of the Bronx, as we know that we've seen several recent cases. Most recently, a young lady caught in the crossfire, literally a victim of gun violence, many other countless others. And I know that for you, the work of gun violence is really integral. So share with us a little bit about BronxConnect and your connection to gun violence.
I appreciate this platform. So if you would allow me just to clarify, Urban Youth Alliance is the name of the organization, and that indeed is a faith-based organization. One of the ways by which, when we were developed in the early 70s, what we did was we trained in leadership on high school and college campuses. And it was these students that were able to come together in various high school and college campuses around the city to get trained in leadership from their various local churches and to share their faith on their high school and or college campuses. And I was involved in the campus ministry at John Jay College. And so some maybe 2 decades later, BronxConnect was birthed, and it was a challenge to the faith-based, to those of faith, asking what impact could the church have on individuals who are justice involved. And so that started our work with young people who were justice involved, going to court, and we established mentors from around the city. And so over throughout the years, we have our alternative to incarceration program, our alternative to detention program. I really think giving us that experience and knowledge and insight in how to engage young people who are court involved or young people who are high risk.
Yeah. And when we talk about young people, we know that many of them are court involved. They're involved in some early introduction to the criminal justice system. But just because they're involved in an early age does not mean that we give up on them, right? And you spent a lot of time really with your boots on the ground, really trying to navigate and provide better and safer services for some of the young people. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the services that are provided, because when we talk about alternatives to incarceration, everybody talks about you can't always arrest the problem away, because once a person comes out, then they got to be able to be sustainable, right? And so you work to make sure that they're sustainable before and also for those who are after, right?
Indeed, we cannot arrest ourselves out of this situation, because if we recall, I want to say from about 2008-ish to about 2000 and maybe from about 2000, about 2003 to about 2012, there was really a lot of arresting going on around in the city. And when we stop and frisk, we thought that we would see soaring rates of gun violence, soaring rates of crime in New York City, but that did not happen. And I really want to say maybe about 2012-ish, we saw this turn happening within our justice system, that if a young person was arrested, not only did they receive support, but there were many wraparound services. And so kids in that alternative to incarceration and alternative to detention world of the justice system, those who stayed in the city and they did not get who did not get shipped upstate. They were here, they received mentoring. They came to organizations like BronxConnect after school. We did anger management work with them. We did behavior modification. We talked, we did basic reading and math with them. There was engagement in basketball training camps with individuals like Carmelo Anthony, I believe that was his name. And so we gave them something to do after school. And what was so amazing is that we saw, you know, that they wanted to be with us. Even though they were mandated, we switched it on them and made sure that this was a place that they wanted to be. Because if they didn't come, we couldn't engage them. And if they did not come, we could not give them some life-changing tools. And even now we have young people come back who were involved with us from about 2002 to about 2014, still coming back to asking for their case managers who were their mentors. And just knowing that we were their aunties, uncles, godparents into this adult world where they could go to for help when they needed help, right? So no, we can't arrest our way through it.
Yeah, but I do know that you've had some great success. One of the programs that you have is called Release the Grip, and it started in 2014, I know, but even though we are seeing spikes of crime, gun violence, and even youth-involved incidents, Release the Grip has really had a great impact.
We're proud to say that we are part of a network within the crisis management system of New York. And yes, Release the Grip is an entity by which we seek to support individuals who are likely to be shooters or likely to be shot in various catchments and zip codes within the city. In particular, in the Bronx, we service parts of the Morrisania area, parts of the High Bridge area, and actually a part within the Belmont area of the Bronx as well. And indeed, we do see great results.
And so for those who may not know about Release the Grip, let's walk a little bit further in that, because when we talk about some of the work that's done, you have people who are involved who really can be what we call credible messengers. And when you're trying to stop the violence, it's sometimes hard when you have somebody that's not connected to enter into the fray and say, hey, you know, here's a better alternative. Here's a way of life. We want you to listen to me. But when you don't have that kind of connection and you don't have that kind of credibility, it makes the work all a lot harder. I know that you have what we call credible messengers.
We do. We have credible messengers on the ground who live in the particular community that they are working in. They are known by the community. The community saw them at a time where it might be considered their worst time. Maybe for some of them, they were about that lifestyle, which makes them credible to the community, makes them credible to some of the kids that are high risk, because these individuals within the community can talk about what they went through. They can talk to the young people and encourage them not to go in a particular direction. And as well, when young people in the community, when they feel themselves going astray, they can come to our staff, they can come to our buildings. If, Daren, you would allow me to say this, it is nothing for our staff to be on the street, because that's where our violence interrupters are, literally on the street, bringing peace during conflict, because conflict happens. And I do want to say, in neighborhoods where, for me, this is a no-brainer, right? Where there's more trash because there are more people, wouldn't it be kind of wise to pick up maybe the garbage twice as much, right, in a week? In an area where schools are overwhelmed with students, wouldn't it be wise to reduce the size of classes so that we can have better teaching opportunities for our young people. But our staff, yes, they are on the ground and they are intervening. The staff is speaking to young people about completing school. And if our kids, and our kids are the kids in our neighborhoods, our catchment, they are really our kids. And that's what I love. It is that old school. These are our kids. They will seek to get them back in school. If the kids are so far beyond maybe a certain age and they might be giving up on going to school, our staff is talking to them about getting them in a high school setting where individuals who have extended their years in school and who are undercredited, we'll get them in a setting like that so that they can complete school in a timely fashion. If you would allow me to go on to say, it is nothing for credible messengers to go to a parent's door and knock on the door and bring some food, or knock on the door and ask where the young person is, or knock on the door and bring the kid home and say he's out too late, he needs to go home. And so oftentimes when folks talk about credible messengers, when people are talking about violence interrupters, you're talking about individuals who they themselves know the value of people in the neighborhood caring. And the fact that we're able to employ people to do what many of them were doing naturally, it is our honor. And we work with incredible people who are on the ground to serve incredible kids with great potential. And there's no fudge on that. There's no exaggerating that. And if you would allow me to just say this one thing, many of our kids, if they were born in a different zip code with a different opportunity, in a different school zone, they would be running major companies. They would be the CEOs. They would be principals and deans.
Yeah, I got to get this in before we wrap our conversation, because I know you talk about these young people and what they would be and what they have the potential to become. But you don't stop there, because I know that you're working and developing them in leadership. And there is a leadership academy that you have that you work with our young people in.
We do. Well, in our local, within our local sites, we do a lot of one-on-one and mentoring with our young people. And we have developed an advocacy team over the course of about 2 years. And this is where we bring in young people who are really what I call really low resource, but high potential. And so sometimes when we use that term high risk, it can seem insulting, but they really are low resource and high potential. And we put them in a setting, and even now we're preparing for the summer, where we are training them 2 to 3 days out of the week. We're putting them in classroom settings during the summer. We're engaging them, we're taking them on trips, we're having them to meet local community members and local politicians, to engage them and make them advocates right within their own community, and really starting the process of making them credible messengers.
Yeah. And so, Minister Tara, before we go, for somebody who may want to connect, or you got a parent that's out there that's watching, or you may even have a young person that says, listen, this sounds something I want to be connected to, what do they do?
Well, I'm going to share a few numbers if you would allow me to. First of all, I am the director of BronxConnect. It is the juvenile justice arm of the organization. If they are interested in getting in touch with us about the alternative to incarceration program, the alternative to detention program, or even our very own anti-gun violence, cure violence program that's part of the crisis management system of New York. Ours is called RTG. They can call us at 917-473-7834. And that's 917-473-7834. 3473-7834. And that would be extension 1401, Daren. If you would also allow me to let them know, we have family therapy as well, because what we find, the same thing holds true, I think, in most communities. It is families that is the foundation of our work, right? Supporting families, so meeting their needs, supporting change. They can reach out and ask about our FFT program, Family Functional Therapy Program. And we can bring these parties together, just even to provide an open door for conversation. And last but not least, any individual that is 18 or over that may have found themselves court involved, who have been involved in the criminal justice system or arrested within the last 5 years, or maybe they've been released from incarceration. They could be 20, they could be 22, they could actually, in fact, be 70. We would invite them to call 929-285-7421. That's 929-285-7421. And that is our reentry program. And about that, we can help young people, and we can also help adults, because what we find is that we all know that if there's an adult that has been touched by the criminal justice system, or who has been incarcerated, their child, right, is more likely to again themselves be touched by the juvenile justice or the criminal justice system. And we want to stop this wave of incarceration. We want to stop this wave of hopelessness. So I hope that these numbers serve you. I hope that our phones are ringing off the hook so that we can meet your needs. And because BronxConnect does just that, we connect our community to those entities, those organizations in the Bronx that can serve them. If it's not us, we want them to be connected to another organization as great, so that their families can be strengthened, and so that our young people can reach the potential that we know that they have.
Minister Tara Brown-Arnell, we're going to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for the work that you're doing in impacting the lives of youth. And as we said, they're not called at risk, they're called low resource, and that's a very big bone that we ought to be carrying with us, to take with us to understand our youth a little bit better. Thank you so much for being with us.
You're so welcome. I hope everyone takes on our heart that they're all of our children, and that they do everything locally within their sphere of influence to impact a young person.
All righty. Minister Tara Brown-Arnell from BronxConnect. All right, taking a quick break. We've got more on the social justice forums. Another great guest coming up right after this. And welcome back to the show. Many New York City families are continuing to experience hardships that become further exacerbated by the multitude of things that happen with the COVID-19 pandemic. One of those issues includes the crisis of homelessness. Within the 5 boroughs, our next guest has actually recently introduced some legislation promoting transparency in the city's shelter system. We're pleased to have now joining with us New York City Council member of District 12, Kevin C. Riley. And Councilmember Riley, glad to have you with us.
Good morning, Daren. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you. Well, listen, I've had this conversation with people on multiple platforms, particularly about COVID-19, the eviction moratorium, and once that moratorium is going to end, that we could see an increase in the rise of homelessness. And I know that yourself, introducing legislation to really tackle that issue, really wants to see an accountability process when it comes to dealing with the city's homeless.
Yeah, when you think about what we went through in the last couple of years with COVID-19, a lot of our families went through a lot of hardship. And when the eviction moratorium ended, we know that the homeless spike will, turn up. And what we saw is a lot of families, and specifically children. We're talking about innocent children. Children are born to be innocent. We ask them to go to school. We ask them to do good. We ask them to give back to their communities. But we have to give them basic things that they need. And something basic that they need is shelter. When we're thinking about affordability and housing within our communities, there's not a lot of housing, and our students and scholars and families are experiencing that. And this is why I introduced Intro 421. Which will require the Department of Homeless Services to produce a regular report on families with children in shelters, because we need to know this information so we could provide resources for them and actually implement legislation that could actually affect what they have to go through on a daily basis.
What are we seeing now by way of reporting from when it comes to homeless services? Are you obviously you want to see more transparency, but can you give us a little bit of a inkling as to what you're seeing right now by way of data and information coming to you?
Well, we're not really getting the data of the families and children that are really in the shelters. You're getting data that's not providing the numbers. And when we're doing school visits and we're asking the principals about students and what their attendance rates are looking like, they're saying that it's doing fairly well, but you can see that the amount of students that were in school prior to COVID has decreased. And you see a lot of families having issues with housing. And we need to know this so we can kind of address these issues. And what we want this resolution to do is promote further data transparency in our New York City shelter system. And that's what we're really asking for. And we want a way to provide a way for the city to identify the vulnerable families that are dealing with these issues and the lack of infrastructure and the lack of housing within our communities.
Yeah. And so when we look at homelessness in your district, how do you assess it and what do you see so far?
When you're looking particularly in my district, I tell you, for instance, every day I drive on the highway to go into Co-op City, which is predominantly a large section of my community. There's a homeless man that's living outside of the highway. He stays there, he comes out, he helps clean cars. We try to give him some information and try to follow through with him, but everything's not really helping. And also in that same area, you have a bunch of RVs, people that are living in RVs within my community. Something that we went out and addressed, but when we're actually going out there, they're saying that the housing market is so bad that they rather live in the RVs because they don't want to go into the shelter system. Because they feel like the shelters, in order to get housing in New York City, a lot of our families feel like they have to go into the shelter system, and a lot of them don't want to produce their children to live in the shelters and have to deal with that. So that's what I'm kind of seeing in my district. So the lack of housing is an issue, but we need the data to actually be able to not only address that on the city level, but address it on the state and federal level as well.
Yeah. So you introduced legislation 421. This calls for more transparency when it comes to getting information in regards to the homeless. Talk to us about where that legislation is right now.
Well, we just introduced it last week. So we're waiting for it to go into the Committee of General Welfare, which is chaired by our Deputy Speaker, Daren Ayala. Right now, we're trying to get as much of our colleagues to sign on to the legislation as possible so we can show that it has majority of the City Council support to actually get it passed.
Yeah. And how long could that potentially take?
That process could take a while, but I think legislation like this, I think my colleagues realize that it's very important. We're really trying to help our school systems, and we're really trying to help our families. We have children and if we're just to take a step back, if we're looking at what's happening within our communities, we have to dissect the root of each issue. I think a lot of finger pointing is going out to our youth and our children on what they're doing out there, but you don't know what's happening when they're going home, or even if they have a home to go to. We need to make sure that we're providing a healthy quality of life for our youth and our children within our community. And in order to do so, we have to know if they have adequate housing, if their families have employment, if they have health insurance, if they have access to resources where they could get extracurricular activities. What child doesn't want the satisfaction? What family doesn't want to have the satisfaction or having a community center within their community, or a center where their kids can actually explore or expand in knowledge and actually build social skills? So we need to get this information so we can actually address this on all levels of government, because it's important that we work together to address this.
Yeah. So let me talk about what's going on in your area, particularly COVID. We talk about how we don't say we're out of it, because we're still dealing with it on a daily basis. And a lot of modifications and a lot of requirements are still in place to be able to deal with these rising levels. But talk to us about the impact of COVID on your district. Give us an insight as to what you're seeing, because a lot of underserved people are caught in there. We know a lot of food insecurity continues to permeate within your district. Give us an insight as to where things are right now.
Food insecurities, we're seeing a lot of houses going up for foreclosure because we lost a lot of seniors within our community. Something else that we're seeing is we're having a huge sanitation issue. My district is being plagued with rats. We're getting dumping from the Westchester County. It seems like people are coming over from that county to kind of put trash over here. Something else that we're kind of seeing within our district is the legal parking of commercial vehicles, the tractor trailers, the RVs within our communities. They're just parking everywhere within the community. It's like a free fall. And when you're going outside and you're seeing the meter, our meter employees actually giving more tickets to regular cars than they are to the tractor trailers. So these are the COVID-19 issues that we're seeing that's happened before the pandemic, but since the pandemic has really expanded.
Yeah. And the need for resources during this time. I mean, small businesses were directly affected, right? And we know that a lot of businesses did not receive the PPP money, and some of them are really struggling to survive. What's been your conversation with businesses, and can you give us a status update with what you found with businesses in your area?
Well, a lot of businesses actually opened during the pandemic in my district. I have a few businesses that opened during the pandemic. I had a few businesses that also closed down during the pandemic. I think it's the accessibility to actually get a grant or learning the information that's actually out there. My district, out of all the 51 council districts, is probably I think one of the 3 or one of the 4 that does not have a business district. A bid that's in the district that can actually help small businesses apply for these grants. We have a great working relationship with the Bronx Business Alliance. And I think now my colleague, Councilmember Julie Menning, who's the chair of the Small Business Committee, is really pushing the administration to make sure that we open in more bids and that we're actually able to give more bids money when they're able to actually help the small businesses within our community.
So
and something else that we've been doing, I'm sorry to cut you off, Daren.
No, I'm sorry, I cut you off. Good.
We've been also having a lot of resource fairs. I think the accessibility and the access to actually this information out there is really hard to obtain. Usually when people come to our office, they're coming to our office with food insecurity issues. They come into our office for help with getting information on housing or immigration issues. So there's a lot of agencies out there that can help them with these actual issues that they're having on a daily basis. So something that we've been doing is having a lot of resource fairs. We're doing it with a lot of community partnerships. We're doing it with schools. We're doing it with community centers within our community. We're doing it with organizations, Michelamas. So we're trying to bring it to the community instead of actually telling them just to come to us. So we're doing more resource fairs out there as well.
I wanted to go back where I was cutting you was that I wanted to ask about that business improvement district, because you did mention that, you're one of the areas that doesn't have a business improvement district. Does that hurt or hinder the area by the fact that you don't have a bid?
I think it hinders the area because business improvement districts really help give small business access to information that they won't be able to obtain themselves. When you look at a lot of bids, we get a lot of help from my colleague, Councilmember Demeuse bid, the Jerome district. Jerome bid district that really helps out White Plains Road. If you look at White Plains Road, it was a blooming small business district a few years ago, and we could possibly even take a walk down. It would be a good time to take a walk down White Plains Road. Now it looks totally different. A lot of stores closed down. There's a lot of trash that we're trying to address on White Plains Road. So it's a lot of issues going on there. And I think if we had a business improvement district within the community, they can help address those issues that we have on White Plains Road, help out a lot of people within our community. Because we have tons of businesses within our community, but they don't have a storefront. So they can actually help them get a storefront and give them access to information, grants out there, resources that they can actually obtain to actually be able to start their own small business storefront.
Well, I certainly agree with you. I mean, when you walk along White Plains Road, it certainly is not what it used to be, but we know that the potential of what it possibly can become with a little bit more TLC can be transformative. It can be transformative to businesses, but most of all to the residents of that community, because you're talking about economic development, you're talking about community development, and you're talking about also people who tend to keep dollars right there in their very own community. So that's also some sustainability. So definitely something.
Our community supports itself. Our community really supports all of our local business leaders within the district. Even me, down to the clothes that we wear. There are a lot of talented people within our community, and we want to keep the dollars within our district. We want to keep the dollars within our community, and that's how we're going to promote generational wealth within our community. We're trying. I think that's my first objective within the district is build the community together with collaborative efforts, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to pull in different entities in the community together to actually address the community needs, because I don't think not one entity, not even me as a council member, will be able to address each and every community need. I need to lean on my community to come in and give me help, give me support to actually address these issues. And that's something I really, really feel that can help with the small businesses within District 12 if we get a business improvement district.
Yeah. Councilmember Riley, before we close, I want to just give you the opportunity to just share a little bit more. Summer's upon us. Talk about what potentially you see happening in your district as we prepare for summer.
I see a lot of amazing things happening in the district. We're doing a lot of community events. We're really utilizing our public spaces. I'm a big parks person. I'm really trying to get more money from the administration to invest in a lot of public spaces like the parks, the libraries within the community. But we're really going to be doing a lot of events on the district. We have a lot of community days coming up in each park in the district. So you can check out our page. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Kevin C. Riley. You can check out our page for any further information. We also are trying to address a lot of issues within the city. I was able to introduce a few pieces of legislation, Intro 354, a local law to amend the administrative code of the city of New York to establish an office of continuing education in adult literacy. Adult literacy is something, and education is something that's important to me. I really wanted to establish an office that could address the fact that we're really trying to expand adult literacy and help our people within our community to try to figure out what type of career paths they want to embark on and really build generational wealth within our community. Something else we were able to introduce was a resolution to call on the governor to pass legislation within the state to require all school buses to have 2 stop arms on each side. What we're seeing now is a lot of traffic incidents that's happening across New York City. We saw a lot of young kids get hit, killed, and also harmed when walking from and to the school. So we wanted to make sure we're keeping them safe. And what we wanted to do with all the school buses now is put 2 stop arms on each side that will be able to stop traffic, so we don't have anyone speeding over across or around the buses. And we have a few legislation that's coming up as well, but really just really tune into our office. You can connect with us. We're going to be open on the weekends, on Saturdays now, during the summertime, giving summer hours to really connect with people in the community.
All right. Councilmember Kevin Riley, we got to leave it there from District 12. Thank you so much for taking the time of being with us here and addressing some very critical needs, particularly that of the homeless. And if you're just joining us, he introduced legislation 421 to try to be able to deal with more transparency in the city's homeless crisis. Councilman Kevin Riley, thank you so much. And I want to let our viewers know, too, that we come to the end of our show today. I want to thank you for watching and hope you enjoyed this week's edition of the Social Justice Anti-Violence Forums. You can always catch the recablecast on BronxNet TV. The website for us, of course, is BronxNet.org. And if you want to join the conversation, you can always visit us on our social media platforms where we are always open to hear your voice. I'm Daren Jaime. We'll join you next week, hopefully, and you'll be able to elevate the conversation, have more discussion on the issues that matter most right here on the Social Justice Forums.